Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Monday. It's a new week, and the NFL is gone. The NFL is gone, which means the NBA is firmly in the spotlight now. Keith, the Super Bowl, did you do anything special for the Super Bowl this year?
No, I mean, I watched it. Like, I watched the two NBA games before it and then watched the Super Bowl. And we just hung out as a family. It's funny. It sounds weird to put it this way. I don't enjoy it. I know people are like, no kidding, when your team's not in it. But I do also enjoy it because there's like no stress involved. Like, I really didn't care who won the game. I was rooting for the 49ers more just because the girls in the house were rooting for the Chiefs. So that made it a little fun. But I was like, I don't know. I thought some of the commercials were pretty good. So all around, great game. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
all I care about when I don't care about who wins. Just give us a good game. And it was. So yeah, so that part was fun.
Yeah, same with me. Just kind of hung out around the house, didn't do anything too exciting. I wrote about this for our Substack, the basketball bulletin, about how now the NBA it really is going to come into its own, right? I mean, now you don't have, by the way, there it is. Check it out. Now that you don't have the NFL taking up all the ratings and things like that, so now it's the NBA's time to really shine. MLB hasn't got going yet. And I broke down kind of where we're at in terms of the standings and which teams I think are going to be the most exciting down the stretch here. So if you guys haven't checked out the basketball bulletin yet, I'll put the link in the description down below. Go check it out. Great way to directly support us. It's something that that I know I've been having a lot of fun on, and I enjoyed writing this one today. Keith, I'm pretty sure you've been having a good time with it too.
Yeah, I have been. I didn't do game notes from the weekend. I was very busy this weekend. I did them for one day, but not another. And then yesterday, there were only two games, so I didn't bother. I figured if people wanted to watch those ones, they probably watched them because there were only two. So we'll get back to that this week. I've got another idea that I want to write about, just kind of going through each team and kind of what their goals might be for the rest of the season. Because obviously, some is try to win a title, and then others are develop a player or whatever it may be. So I've been putting together notes on that for each game that is left, and we'll see how, or each team rather, and we'll see how it comes together.
All right. Well, you guys can definitely go check that out over by using the link in the description down below, or you just go to the URL. It's basketballbulletin.substack.com. All right.
Before we get into news, I just want to
Yes.
say we said this a little bit on Friday, but just wanted to tell everybody again, Thursday show, killer. How many people popped in for the
Yeah.
live stream? It was awesome. It was really cool. Like, where the numbers are way up there. Everybody watched it after the fact, folks who commented after the fact, and then everybody who showed a lot of love because they didn't think they were getting a show on Friday, and we did one, and they seemed very happy about that. I thought we made it clear we weren't doing a live show, but we'd probably
Yes.
still do a show. But it was, people were unexpected, so I hope that was a pleasant surprise to help people get through the end of the week and into the weekend. And we had a blast. And thanks to Sean for coming in and hanging out
Mhm.
for a while. He was there as our pinch hitter in case you had to step away to do Lakers stuff, and the Lakers decided to delay their let's say rest of season transactional work a little bit
Yes.
until the bio market. So it worked out. But yeah, we had a great time, and the subscriber numbers went up. So again, thanks to everybody who has joined in and subscribed. And we're still here. We're still going to be doing this Monday through Friday and going all the way through.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. This week, we won't have a Friday show because I'll be traveling, and we do have the All-Star break and all that, but we will have, we'll do our live show on Thursday instead this week. So that's going to be
Yeah.
coming.
So we'll have a little front office Thursday action.
Front office Thursday
for
this
the
week.
week. And then next week, we'll see what the beginning part of the week looks like. It's the All-Star break where we're both trying to get in the last little bit of downtime we'll have until sometime mid to late July, maybe at most. So we're trying to squeeze that in as best we can.
That is what it's looking like. It's going to be
Yeah.
July, probably at the earliest,
Yeah.
that we have any kind of downtime. All right, let's get into today's news. I guess let's start here. This was something that that kind of popped out to me, and that's Mitch Kupchak stepping down as the Hornets president. Um, this is something that we had kind of heard was in the works. I always say this whenever we do a story mentioning Mitch Kupchak. I've never seen anyone so talented when it comes to saying a lot of words without actually saying anything. He is insane with how he can do this, and he pulls it off all with a straight face. And in his mind,
Years.
he's probably laughing maniacally as he's saying all this stuff in his head. But he is incredible at that. He does step down though as the Hornets president, which means new ownership group will bring in their own people, and off they go.
Yeah, it's funny. The timing's a little different on this, right? Because there's
Sure.
a thought of why didn't this happen before? Why didn't you let somebody else run the trade deadline? And I think though, if you go back and look at the timing all around, new ownership group came in right around the start of the season. So it's a little hard to just kind of get rid of everybody then. Then it is, all right, if you're going to really do this, you need to do it in like mid-December just to get people up to speed. So I'm thinking this was more of a, hey, let's just we're gonna let you kind of do your thing here. And I don't think there are any kind of snap decisions on like Thursday
No.
night or Friday where it was like, oh my God, you did such a terrible job. Because quite frankly, I think for what they were working with, I think the Hornets had a pretty nice trade deadline. I think came
Sure.
away with some future assets, came away with some players that I think are going to be helpful for them, as well as cleared out some long-term money on the books too, and got off some money just for this season. So all around, I think it was a good trade deadline for them. I think it's a case of this is a way for Mitch Kupchak, rather than getting fired at the end of the year or anything getting ugly, he can step aside now, and whoever comes in, and it sounds like according to Woj, they're going to be on this right now, which is this is not a bad time because whoever comes in can really set your offseason strategy, right? It can be they can run your draft prep, they can run your transaction prep for the draft period, for the
Mhm.
offseason period, and really go through it that way. So I think this is better than waiting until April and making a change. You get on it now, make your change. And I think we all knew this was coming under a new ownership group. They want to pick their own people. So my guess is this is just the first change of many at the top of the hierarchy there in Charlotte. And it's probably time considering where the franchise has been. And it's not a bad thing.
No, yeah. I mean, this franchise has been in a bad spot, and now you're going to have new ownership coming in. You're going to have some new decision makers, and Kupchak is going to transition into more of like an advisory role. So it's not like they're just kicking him to the curb. Now, I know, I see the reaction there, Keith. Maybe advisory in name only. How
Yeah.
much say is he really going to have? I get it, but
It's like all those
but
jobs
still,
Tony Soprano's buddies worked on the show at the garbage company and that where they showed up once a week to take the money and left. Like, that's the kind of advisory role. But it's fine. I
hey,
mean, he's I think he's 69 years old. So
mhm.
like yeah, he'll be 70 in May. Like he's probably ready to be done if I had to
Y-
guess.
yeah. I mean, hey, a no-show paycheck. Wouldn't we all be so lucky?
And I'd like one. That's for sure.
All right, let's jump over to this. This is one of the big signings in the buyout market. Kyle Lowry is going to join the 76ers. Keith, I wrote about it for Basketball Bulletin. I said the 76ers are the NBA version of a loading screen right now, and we're just waiting
Yeah.
to find out whether or not Joel Embiid comes back and whether or not the program is actually going to load. Because if not, then that's it. You know that it's just going to crash, and that's the end of their season essentially. But if Embiid comes back, then maybe this will mean something with Kyle Lowry joining their team. I don't particularly believe Kyle Lowry has a ton left, but could he step in and occasionally make a spot up three or something if Embiid is on the floor, and could that matter in a big moment? Sure, that's possible. Outside of that, there's everything for the 76ers depends on what happens with Embiid.
Yeah, it's they are not a title contender without Joel Embiid, and that's not.
Right.
I'm not exactly making a hot take there, right? I think we all would agree on that. If you get Embiid back and he's right and can be Embiid, then you're probably in the mix to some extent, at least. They did not do a ton to build up their team. I thought Daryl Morey did a nice job of getting Buddy Hield, who I think can help if they play super fast without Embiid, and that seems
Mhm.
to be the indication is a really push pace. Tyrese Maxey is already a blur with the ball in his hands. Just let him push pace, almost kind of mimic a little bit what the Pacers were doing when Hield was with them with Tyrese Halliburton and run up and down the floor and try to outscore teams. And then I think what you do is if Embiid gets back, you obviously transition into an offense focused on him. And then what you do is you let Hield be your floor spacer at that point and build it out. And if Hield works out great, you can pursue a new contract with him this summer. If he doesn't work out very good, you can let him go and you move on and go in a different direction. So I think Philly did a fairly nice job of threading
Yeah.
that cap space, future asset plan, needle, and all the other stuff with, hey, let's try to improve the team right now. Their question is, you're going to sign Lowry, and then they still have 2 more open roster spots. So my guess is you'll probably see a couple more vets come in, or maybe one more vet, maybe one of the G League guys. Ricky Council had a nice game for them the other day. Maybe one of those guys gets converted, and they just kind of move forward from there. But all around, I think Philly, I've seen some people say, like, are they even going to make the playoffs? I don't even know that they drop out of the top 6, even without Embiid, but we'll see. It's tighter than it certainly was for them. They are, let's see, they're 2.5 games up on Indiana. That's the 5 and 6 teams, and then Orlando is 7th. They're still 2.5 games, or they're 2 games up on Indiana, 2.5 up on Orlando. So it's you have a little bit of wiggle room, but Philly, not it's by no means a lock. They stay in the top 6, and if you don't have Embiid, it just gets that much harder to even win in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even win in the play-in tournament without him. But here's the issue. So, and I was looking through this, trying to figure out, who can do what and everything. And again, was looking at this for basketball bulletin earlier. But you look at the 76ers, they're 2-8 in their last 10.
Yeah.
Like that's like you look at right now the East. You look at a lot of these teams. Okay, you have a bunch of teams that are 7-3 or 6-4 or something like that. Okay, well, so those teams are going to tread water pretty well. They're not going to fall too far in the standings or anything like that. 2-8, if the teams chasing you are going 6-4 or 7-3, you're going to give that up pretty quick. So they do need to stabilize things somewhat. That cushion definitely helps. But if you're only winning 2 out of 10 games, that you're going to fall fast.
Yeah, it feels like to me, I'm curious to see what you think. They're only 2.5 behind Milwaukee, but that 2.5 feels way different than the
Yes.
2.5 they're ahead of Orlando. Like that making up that 2.5 feels like it's almost impossible, where it feels like Orlando could make up that 2.5 on them and it's by the end of next week.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to the All-Star break, but you know what I mean. Like by the time we come back from the first half week of games at the end of the All-Star break, Orlando could have passed Philly or caught them in the standings. It feels like a span of 4 or 5 games they could make that up, and that's just weird sometimes when you look at that, and that's just how it feels.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's exactly what I think as well. It'll be tough for them to move up, but they could fall. And again, it all depends on Embiid and kind of what happens there.
Yeah.
All right. The other move that we had on the buyout market is Spencer Dinwiddie joins my Lakers. He'll come over, returns back home to LA. We know the Mavs were another team that were interested in bringing him in, but he decides to go join the Lakers. Now, Keith, I looked at this as not only and we talked about this last week, he's probably the best player that's available on the buyout market. Buyout guys tend to not be guys that are going to move the needle a ton, but they can come in and at least fill a role. I think he'll fit into that Dennis Schroeder role from last season as kind of a third guard in the mix with Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. But I also think this is a little bit of a sign that the Lakers, they're probably not super confident about, number one, Gabe Vincent coming back. Number two, him being himself when he does come back, if and when he comes back. So I think this is a good hedge against that because it was pretty clear. I thought they needed another player in their backcourt rotation. And so hopefully Dinwiddie can at least give them that.
I completely agree. I that's what I see this as is more than anything. I see it as we had an opportunity to snag a good player on the buyout market, and we did. And it's a bonus that good player is at a position of need. Because sometimes we see on the buyout, sometimes buyout moves are almost more of a I don't want him to go here, so let's get him ourselves
Right.
kind of thing. And that's like I don't know that was the case of this move. Maybe they didn't want him to go to Dallas. They're obviously trying to run the Mavs down if they can. But I think the Lakers are in a spot where, we could use another guard in the rotation here. And now the nice thing with Gabe Vincent, too, is let's say we're after the All-Star break and it's like, all right, Gabe Vincent can come back. Maybe Gabe Vincent can come back and play 8 to 10 minutes a night every other game or something and just get him back healthy and ready to go because you have him on a contract for the next couple of years and you don't have to hey, you got to come right back and start playing 25 minutes a night because we don't have a third guard right now. And part of the reason the Lakers don't have a third guard is obviously Vincent got hurt. That was the role he was pegged for, but nobody else has really stepped forward. Jalen Hood-Schifino's not ready, or at least
No.
in their opinion, not ready for it. And nobody else on the roster is really lead ball handler type. Like they're more off ball players. Like I like Max Christie quite a bit, but he's an off ball guy. The two-way guys, like it's a little weird. I mean, we saw, what was it, last week? At the end of the week, Skylar Mays was like one of the first dudes off the bench because they just needed a ball handler. So I think this is going to help them big time. Now, I know you guys, everybody who covers the Lakers, were sharing the quotes of Darvin Ham saying he already likes the idea of a three-guard lineup with LeBron, AD, and Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Angelo Russell, and Austin Reeves. And my response to your tweet, I think you tweeted something like, "Oh, it's happening," and my reply was, "Is that the A guard all five guys on the floor D lineup?" Like I just I don't understand. Like that seems like a very bad idea to me, but there's moments when sure you can use that and you'll be just fine, especially if you need to make up ground or you're trying to catch up. But yeah, let's hope that's not a 20-minute a night kind of thing from the Lakers, because they're probably going to hemorrhage points pretty badly at that point, unless AD all of a sudden can turn into like a Marvel hero and multiply himself around the court and
the multiple man,
do all those things. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, so they actually, and most Lakers fans react in horror when we hear 3-guard lineup because Darvin Ham last year, because they had this weird idea that Pat Bev was a wing last year. And so they ran Patrick Beverley, Russell Westbrook, and Dennis Schroeder all together in these lineups. Now, they didn't have a ton of other options, but still, they ran them all together. The big problem there was, though, none of them can shoot. And so you didn't get any of the spacing benefits you would think from having these smaller, higher skilled players on the floor. And it was just a disaster. But we still remember that pain is still there. Sure. So last season, once it became D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Dennis Schroeder, and Reeves and Russell can shoot, and Schroeder can be the feisty defender, it actually worked out really well. And the net rating was great. Not to say that's a lineup you can go to all the time, as Denver showed us in the playoffs. But it actually worked out well, like to the point where it was one of their better lineups that they had to turn to. So I do think that some of the fear is a little bit unwarranted because we do have an example of it working. That said, Spencer Dinwiddie is not Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder's defense is part of what made that click. So I think he's got to be very careful about which groups he deploys that lineup against, because it's what Darvin Ham is known for, is going small. And ironically, Keith, I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen what Scottie Pippen Jr. has been doing for the Grizzlies?
Yeah, he's been playing okay.
He's been doing some stuff. Yeah, pretty solid. And he was with the Lakers in the G League. Ironically, from what I'm told, the reason why he didn't get a shot with the Lakers was because he's too small. And Darvin Ham is known for playing these smaller lineups, and that's kind of where Lakers fans get frustrated. But now Scottie Pippen Jr. is with the Grizzlies, and he's shooting 61% from three right now. Obviously, that's not going to continue forever, but still, good for him.
If it does,
kind of funny.
The greatest player of all time. I mean,
there you go.
I'm not going to rule it out. Yeah, Steph may be looking over his shoulder a little bit there. I think
coming for him.
That's it. I think with Dinwiddie too, I think what's important is you have to have him on the floor with either Reeves or Russell when he's out there, just because I think you need the shooter out there. Dinwiddie has been a very poor shooter this year, and he's kind of been up and down throughout the course of his career. Like he'll have one good year, then he'll have a bad year. He'll have one good year and a bad year. This year's been one of the bad years. Not to say it can reverse or change, but it hasn't been a great shooting year for him. I think, but if you have him out there with Reeves or Russell, you have a shooter on the floor. He could clearly do enough playmaking, break defenses down. The thing I've noticed with the Lakers, when things kind of get a little sideways for them, it's when they have a little bit of trouble breaking down a defense off the dribble. Teams can really extend their defense out. They push them out beyond the arc, and then they're basically pitching the ball around the perimeter, and they take a bad jumper. Now you get Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie can hopefully get by guys, get in, you get the defense cycling, get them in rotation, kick out to shooters, find cutters, those kinds of things. I think he'll really help them in that respect. And we all know at some point he's going to win a game for them, probably with some like ridiculous pull up 30-footer with 5 seconds on the clock that you'll all scream no when he lets it fly.
The no, yes. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just what he does. He has one of those just about every year. So I think one of those will probably come at some point. But yeah, I look at this as there was nothing lost here. They didn't lose any opportunity to sign somebody better. They didn't give him like a massive contract. They gave him basically the rest of the MLE, and then comically, which he's done, I think, on his last 2 contracts prior, his $1 bonus if he wins the championship. So that's always a funny thing. There's that I'm not going to say, because I was going to say there's part of me that wants to see the Lakers win the title and watch Jeannie Buss like hand him $1 on the podium. But there's actually no part of me that wants to see.
You Lakers can't bring yourself to actually say that. I get it. I get it.
Yeah. So we can work that out at Spencer Dinwiddie's next home, whenever that is, wherever he goes. But yeah, the last thing I'll say, a couple people said to the Lakers, by giving him this contract, did you get any kind of benefit towards re-signing him? And the answer is no. You have his non-bird rights. It's effectively a minimum contract. It's just slightly more money. So it doesn't really do anything for them to be able to sign him as a free agent this summer. My guess is everybody kind of knows this is probably a 1-year thing, unless he wants to stay for the MLE next year, if the Lakers are in position to use it. Otherwise, he's probably here for the next what do we got, 4 months or so in the season, and then
whatever's
I'm
left
out
in the
of here
season.
and I'm off to wherever I'm going next.
Yeah, he's checking that box. I got to play for my hometown team and all that. We grew up in LA, went to Taft High School, which is also my dad's high school, which is kind of an ironic or a funny little connection there. But yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie, we'll see what he does with it. He should make his debut tomorrow night against the Pistons.
Which I mean, and it's going to be good, I think, for the Lakers. I think it'll help them. I certainly don't think it's going to hurt them at all.
No. All right. Speaking of buyout guys, Marcus Morris maybe lands with the Wolves. I mean, it makes sense that the Wolves will be high on the priority list.
Patrick Beverly,
according to Pat Bev.
Newsbreaker extraordinaire, Patrick Beverly now? Like, okay, sure.
What do you think about that fit, Marcus Morris with the Wolves, if that's indeed the way this goes?
I wanted to see him get more of a wing in there. They did a good job getting the ball handler they needed when they traded for Monte Morris. That's going to be a big acquisition. I think because of when it happened kind of in the middle of everything else. It got overlooked a little bit. The Morris pickup, meaning the Monte Morris pickup for the Wolves. He's just going to be huge for them. He's going to be able to reduce the burden on Mike Conley and just give them another guy that they can have that can really run the show when Conley's out of the game. Now, Marcus Morris, I think there's maybe a little too much duplication between him and Kyle Anderson as far as role.
And
meaning,
speed.
Yeah, they're just like the big, yeah, that too. At this point in their career for sure. But if you can find ways to maybe you play the two of them, or maybe you can play one on when the other is out or whatever, I think you're okay. Morris he doesn't have the foot speed to defend wings the way he used to. Like I think back to when he was with the Pistons, then with the Celtics, or I guess with the Celtics, then the Pistons, then his time with the Clippers. He was not. He was a pretty solid defensive player then. He's just not that guy anymore. He just doesn't move his feet like that. That said, he shot very well for the Sixers. He played much more of a 4/small ball 5 role with Philly at times. The Wolves certainly don't really need that because they've got Towns, Gobert, and Reed in those spots. But it's not going to hurt them if this is the direction they go. I think it's a good pickup to fill out your bench just with one more guy who can play. And then if anything stupid happens again, like Jaden McDaniels punches a wall and thinks he's punching a curtain, now you can just have more step up and play more in the rotation, and you're probably okay.
All right, that's so we'll see if this actually, again, this has not happened, but
yeah, it's even been waived yet by San Antonio for what it's worth, because people were like, oh, when will he be able to debut? And it's like when he gets actually waived by San Antonio. And what we see sometimes, this kind of happened a little bit with Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, like we all thought, like, okay, Lowry didn't get traded, which we kind of all knew was coming. The Hornets will waive him by like 5 p.m. on Thursday. It happened just yesterday, I believe he officially got waived. So sometimes it takes a couple extra days because sometimes the guys are, hey, I need to know from my next team what are my exact contract terms, when will
Exactly.
the contract start, because that can inform how much money they give back in a buyout. So that's my guess is probably some of the conversation happened. And one of the things you might have these teams doing is, hey, we want to sign you, but we want to delay it until after the All-Star break because we don't really have time to incorporate you 2 days before the All-Star break or a
True.
game or two before. So just come in, join the team when everybody else comes back. For a guy like Morris, you might be like, yeah, that's a couple $100,000 that I might have to give up. If I'm giving up a couple days, I'll just wait. I'll do the buyout at the end of the All-Star break and sign on then. And we could see it go that way too. So just a little bit of a different thing here when sometimes people look. But yeah, for what it's worth, has not actually been waived yet. We'll see. My guess is it's coming, and then we kind of go from there.
All right. The Hawks almost moved DeJounte Murray at the trade deadline, or at least they say they were considering DeJounte Murray trades. So things got a little dicey on the Hawks side of things there, but now teams are wondering, now that they didn't move DeJounte Murray at the trade deadline, could this actually push Trae Young onto the trade market this summer? Could the Hawks essentially we're looking at two things, and Mark Stein talked about this on his great Substack, that the Hawks have, number one, come to the decision that Trae Young and DeJounte Murray do not work together. And number two, that by not moving DeJounte Murray at the trade deadline, that it opens up the possibility that they could just keep Murray and trade Trae Young rather than vice versa. What are your thoughts on both of those concepts? Number one, do you think number one is true that Trae Young and DeJounte Murray simply don't work?
Yeah, I think that's been seen now. You watch them play, it's a little bit of an awkward fit. The hope was DeJounte Murray would make Trae Young's life easier. Trae Young could play off the ball more and they could run some stuff. And it just hasn't really come to fruition that way. Instead, what happens is Trae Young, as one of the best players or best offensive players, at least in the league, should have is he has the ball in his hands a lot and he's creating a lot of stuff. And that means DeJounte Murray ends up playing off ball, which isn't good. So then that leads to you're staggering them, which means Murray doesn't play quite as much. And it's just been very, very messy as far as it fits. So I think that part of it, one is I think Atlanta has 100% decided this doesn't work. We need to move on from.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's probably more likely Murray, but I wouldn't be surprised
Yes.
if they make it known like, hey, what did somebody want to throw us for a first round pick offer for Trae Young? Because we're not against listening to a trade offer like that. I think that could be a thing we start hearing, in June, beginning part of July.
And I've got up on the screen the salaries from Spot Track. Obviously, you guys do a fantastic job keeping everything together with all that. A Trae Young, getting to a Trae Young number is going to be more difficult, certainly, than DeJounte Murray. But should Trae Young hit the market, like teams will be lining up with offers and trying to get him. There's no question. He's got more value. He's got more interest around the league than DeJounte Murray would. So I think the Hawks could indeed get some kind of a haul for Trae Young. Is it enough for them, or will the same thing happen where it's yes, okay, we're looking at a deal here, this is looking good, and then suddenly ownership gets involved and they're like, oh no, wait, we don't want to do that. That could happen. Atlanta has a history of doing this stuff. They did it with John Collins. The question is, will they go ahead and pull the trigger on either of these guys? I think they will do one. I do still think DeJounte Murray is the most likely because they're going to reopen those negotiations this coming summer when more teams have draft capital available. But I wouldn't count out a Trae Young move either. And if I'm an opposing team, I'm calling and I'm saying, hey, let's talk DeJounte Murray trades. And while we're at it, just curious, what would it take to get Trae instead? What are your thoughts there? And off you go, and then you see what's what.
I think the kind of the cutoff here that you've got on the screen is perfect for the Hawks, because what it's going to demonstrate is, for those who are watching, I'll try to, without reading a ton of numbers to people, I'll try to do it for those who are just listening. But you really want to focus on the second column because that's next year's salaries. Mm-hmm. This year's salaries, they're what they are. They're all, all good. But Trae Young next year, $43 million. So to the Trae Young part of the conversation, big number to match on. But one of the teams that's been mentioned, Mark Stein mentioned them. I think Jake Fisher mentioned them. A couple people did, is maybe San Antonio could be a team that says, hey, we got the big guy. We got Victor Wembanyama. you guys would be amazing pick and roll partners together, and he
Mhm.
could cover for you, right?
Yes.
He can help, on the defensive end. And I think one of the things that they might be looking at is, hey, we got 20 million in cap space, maybe more if we get there, but we got 20 million in cap space. And so that really makes it too, we only got to send you 23 million. Well, now we're Keldon Johnson and somebody else, and we're there. And
Yep.
or yeah, I'd use Keldon Johnson, but you could use a whole bunch of different guys if you wanted to. Or the Spurs may look at it and say, hey, we'll match for Trae Young using X, Y, and Z players. You want to get rid of DeAndre Hunter's contract? You want to get rid of Bogdanovich's deal? We'll take
Yeah.
them too and go. The other part of it is if you flip down to Murray makes 18 million this year. Super easy number to acquire. Next year, it just gets a little trickier because it's 25.5 million. So it just goes up and down. He's got a trade bonus in there. So that's also going to be a thing that's going to have to get sorted as well. So that becomes like just a thing that you got to keep an eye on with them. But here's the other part of this. Then you start looking at the other guys. You've got Clint Capella, 22.2, Hunter, 21.7, Bogdanovich, 17.3. Onyeka Kongwu already signed his extension. He goes up to 14. And then the last guy who's visible on the screen, Sadiq Bey, who's playing pretty well for them, is a restricted free agent. So all of a sudden, you're in a position where, wow, we got Trae Young and a bunch of dudes who make combined well over $100 million. Then we get into these other numbers where it's like, man, these are starting to get tough. None of those contracts individually is a bad contract. None of them. They're all fine. It's just all together for a roster doesn't fit great. That's where it gets tough. And the guy you don't see on there is Jalen Johnson, who a year from now we'll be having this conversation about needing a new deal. So we're just in a weird spot with the Hawks where there's a lot of overlapping pieces. You've got two centers, you got 2 point guards, you got a bunch of wings, and the wings that can't necessarily play together. And it just gets very, very messy. The last part I'll say about DeJounte Murray, I go back to the year Mike Conley got traded to the Grizzlies that summer. Mike Conley got traded to the Jazz rather by the Grizzlies. He was very, very close to getting traded to the Jazz at the trade deadline.
Yes.
And the Grizzlies and Jazz said the contract's just too big. There's too many things to be worked out here. You don't have the additional roster spots because we're going to have to send you back like a 4-for-1. There's no cap space teams to help facilitate. Those trades often are easier made in the summertime because it's just easier to get to the bigger number. Murray's number is not super huge, but I do have to wonder if some of the teams are like, hey, we really want him, but for us to get there, we need the extra draft pick that'll free up. I'm not saying it'll be the Lakers, but that spot that they're in. There were a couple teams that are in that spot. Or we got to really send you like 2 or 3 guys. We know you don't want 2 or 3. In the summertime, we'll have that third team that we can send player X to much easier. We heard about that with D'Angelo Russell. In the summer, there'll be 7, 8, 9 teams. That'll be like, yeah, we'll take on D'Angelo Russell as an expiring contract and figure it out and whatever with that. So it just makes it that much easier to make a move like that.
Yeah, exactly. Summertime just opens up a lot more possibilities when you're trying to make these deals. And so, we're going to be talking about the Hawks a lot again in, mid-June. They're going to come up again, and we're going to be talking about them all the way up until the draft and then into free agency. They're going to be a team to watch, certainly, on the trade market.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of the draft, does drafting Bronny land LeBron? Mark Stein said that there are already 2 teams that he knows of. There could be more, just 2 teams that he knows of that believe that despite the fact that LeBron has $51 million on his contract next year on a player option, that they believe that if they were to draft Bronny, they would get LeBron to take a lot less than $51 million to come and play with his son. Keith, this is absolutely fascinating to me, not because of just the Lakers aspect of this, but I don't know that we've ever seen this before in the draft, where drafting a specific player, particularly a player that isn't seen as most mock drafts have him in the second round if he's being drafted at all, but drafting him would be your path to getting a superstar, a guy who's in the greatest of all time conversation. I don't think we've ever seen this before. I can only imagine what would happen to Bronny's draft stock if it became known. If you draft him, LeBron will come play for your team. That would it would send the draft into chaos. I can't even imagine, just the financial implications of doing this, the temptation to take him and get LeBron, even if it's just 1 year of LeBron, would have to be crazy. I mean, maybe that even vaults Bronny up into the lottery. That it would be absolutely wild if that were to be the case.
Yeah, and what's tough is obviously we all want the best for Bronny after what he went through with the heart attack, heart
Yes.
whatever. I don't know the correct medical term, but the heart issue that he went through last summer. And it's great that he's back playing again, and he seems to be fine, which is awesome. He has not played great. He's
No.
not the USC has not played great either. They've had some struggles. He's had some struggles. Talking to a lot of people who do the draft, and even in my own analysis, I struggle to even see him being a second rounder right now. It's just
Mm.
not there. He doesn't look that good. He's a guy who, quite honestly, should probably stay in school for another year, have a normal summer, and then really get after it and
Yes.
see if maybe the team's better and he plays better. All that said, yeah, if teams start sending a sign of, hey, you come out, we'll draft you, we'll give you the 4-year rookie scale contract, but we got to get your dad too. That's different. And it's funny. I was laughing a little when you're like, I don't think we've ever seen this before. Well, yeah, because we've never seen an active dad still in the league. That's
Right.
like,
But
hey,
I mean,
draft
just to
my
connect,
kid.
even if
Right.
a superstar player said, "Hey, I would love to play with
Sure.
this guy. If
Yeah.
you get him,"
Sure.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We haven't seen
I
that
was
either.
just
But
laughing about the kind of the
true.
absurdity of the situation. And not only is LeBron still playing, but LeBron is still good enough to even kind of wield that kind of power.
Yeah.
This is not Robert Parrish, who's kind of always going to be my go-to of still playing in his 40s, but really playing out the string as like a bench backup, right? He was
Right.
very much a deep role player. Udonis Haslam the last few years of his career. Like LeBron's still one of the best players in the league. So you get into this spot where it is like, yeah, and now I don't think if the Detroit Pistons are like, we draft him, you're gonna sign here. I don't know that LeBron's like. I
They
think
would
LeBron
pick
might be
certain
like, hey,
teams, I'm
enjoy
sure.
Detroit, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
I'll see you when we swing through for a once a year
I'm
tournament,
going to send you
right?
some warm clothes.
Yeah,
See ya.
exactly. Yeah, well, I'll buy you a coat before you go. And I'm only picking
Apologies
on
to
yeah,
Bryce and Doug, not
exactly.
Dave McMenamin. Sorry,
And
guys.
I'm only picking on the Pistons because they're the worst team in the league right now. But I don't think Charlotte. I don't think there's a whole bunch of the teams that are at
Hmm.
the bottom of the standings.
Yeah.
But if you're like a New York Knicks, that is like, hey, we've kind of always wanted this guy, and I don't know if they still
Hmm.
do or don't, but we've got some extra picks coming anyway. This isn't going to screw us up. And if the idea is, hey, we can get Bronny and then we can get LeBron in a sign and trade for 20 million a season and send back Bojan Bogdanovic or whatever, plus draft picks to the Lakers to facilitate and make it happen because he's leaving anyway. Let's go, right? That could be a scenario that is not, it doesn't, it sounds ridiculous, but when you actually see it play out, stuff like that does happen. So this scenario is what would be crazy to this. So I I don't know how many teams are really thinking like, yeah, we're gonna draft Bronny right now to definitely
Yeah.
get LeBron, but that buzz is only going to pick up over the next 4 months until the NBA draft. So get ready for it. I guess is the best way I could put that.
Now, I think one angle that we need to consider from this too, though, is what does Bronny want?
Yeah,
You know, because that's the other piece to this. Like, it's probably not going to feel great for him if he knows he got drafted just because of
yeah,
his dad. Now, a lot of guys who are drafted, they're getting generational money to take care
sure,
of their families, and that kind of stuff matters. LeBron is a billionaire with a capital B. That doesn't that's not a factor
yeah,
for Bronny. So that's the other thing too, where I look at this, I'm like, well, if he knows like, hey, I'm not going to get drafted unless my dad is coming with me, is that something that he, or would he just say, I'm going to go back to school, I want to get drafted on my own merit? And
yeah,
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm thinking but that's got to be a factor in all of this too. Is that really the way, if that's the way this really goes, where it's clear he's not going to be drafted unless a team gets his dad too, is that the path that he wants to take into the league? That's something to consider.
yeah. I think with LeBron too. LeBron has basically been mapping out his career since he was 13 or 14 years old, and I don't know that even he thought he'd still be year 20 plus playing and
Sure.
playing at this level because it's just unheard of. But I think what LeBron, maybe more than anybody, just because of the sense of how long he's been planning for this, has an appreciation for everything that goes into the game. I think one, I don't think he'd want to cheapen things, especially
Yeah.
for his own kid. I also think he knows if this is how it plays out, let's just say it was that Knicks scenario.
Yeah.
They both go to the Knicks. They are going to have an incredible amount of pressure on them to not only be okay, but to be great.
Yes.
Because what the expectation is going to be is, hey LeBron, you better be awesome because we gave up whatever we gave up to get you. Plus, quote unquote, we used a draft pick to pick your kid when maybe we shouldn't have. And then that's going to put a pressure on him and a pressure on Bronny to, hey, you better be worth it. Because we know, and I use the Knicks as an example, but that's gonna be anywhere this happens. You're gonna have fans that are gonna be like, you still better be LeBron that can lift
Yeah.
us by yourself into contention. Otherwise, this just isn't worth it. Like that's that now, if it's the Thunder with one of their 700 first round picks, great. They're
Sure.
probably a team that should definitely do it. Because what difference you miss on one? Who cares?
Right.
Really. I
Exactly.
don't know if
You got
LeBron
50
retires
others.
2 years into a deal with you, you just waive Bronny if he's not good, move on, and you're probably out nothing. So I
And you made a fortune off of 2
yeah,
years of LeBron
exactly. Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely scenarios at play, I think, where this could happen. And you know as well as I do, there's already the buzz of how much sway does he hold over the Lakers? Is he going
Sure.
to force the Lakers into drafting Bronny? Right. And I've even heard some people say, like, what happens if Bronny declares and then the Pelicans are like, actually, we'll take the
Yeah.
pick. then what happens, right? So, but at that point, then it's great. We'll find a way to get a second rounder and we'll draft him then.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. So I'm morbidly curious to see how this all plays out, but
It's going to be
I
fascinating.
don't love the whole optics around it because I feel for the kid more than I feel for anything. Like I feel like
Yes.
I want to see him to an extent do what he can to kind of make it on his own and get there on his own merits. So but if he can make, I don't know what it will be at that point, but 12-15 million dollars of money himself, just because, I mean, great. I'm just going to yell at my dad for not being a great NBA player and getting me drafted.
Yeah, that would not be a bad consolation. 12 to 15 million. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't turn it down. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna cry all the way into his money pillow like Scrooge McDuck.
Like where he dives into the vault of coins
Yeah,
and swims through them
coins.
and everything.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Oh, Scrooge. Good times. Good times. So let's get to this. By the way, speaking of television, JJ Redick will be on the NBA Finals broadcast. Is JJ Redick becoming the NBA's Tony Romo? Is that where
Yeah,
this is
maybe a little
headed?
bit.
Kind of.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
Romo got to do the Super Bowl.
yeah.
Like, and I guess
Sure.
people love him or hate him. I like him. I think he breaks down the game pretty well. But
Yeah, he talks a little. This is me saying this, so it's very ironic, but he talks a little too much,
okay.
for my liking. But yeah, I like Rome. I like the way he breaks stuff down, and he gets so excited. Like that's the thing I like. He
Yes.
has passion. What I like most about JJ Redick is not like, well, when I played, like JJ
Yeah.
Redick is like, no, these guys are good, and some of the guys who say that they're not good, I played with those guys, and they're just as good as those guys too. So. Yeah, I think JJ Redick's great. I think him, Mike Breen, and Doris Burke is a great trio. I think it'd be really, really good. Highly enjoyable. They all know their stuff. I think it would make for a good podcast.
He's not so far removed that you're getting the these guys are soft.
Correct.
In my generation, we did this, which I always hate. Like when the older generation of players and the guys that we grew up loving just want to tear down all the guys from today for their accomplishments or playing the way that they do or whatever. It's like, man, just these guys are great players. Celebrate the great players. But yes, big picture. Yeah, I agree. I think JJ Redick will be great, and it's a fantastic thing for him for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Big time.
Okay. We do have still a lot. We've got some injuries to get through. I guess let's talk about this one. Let's go here. The bill to relocate the Wizards dies. So we all know, how a bill becomes a law, Schoolhouse Rock, all that kind of stuff. But in this case, the bill to relocate the Wizards has died for the time being. It could be reintroduced at some other time, but for the moment, it looks like the Wizards will stay put.
Yeah, everybody I know is like, leave them where they are. I've heard
Yeah,
a million people say, I'm not
it's
driving all the way there. I don't begin to know. I've driven through that area
it's not like they're
more.
moving to Seattle or something.
Yeah. And I don't like my general understanding is it's not great to get into downtown, but if you live where they're talking about moving is like southwest of uh downtown DC.
Mhm.
And anybody who lives on the other side, like getting closer to the Maryland side of DC, is like it's going to be a nightmare to get out there. Like, I don't want to travel out there to games. And I know a lot of people use trains and public transportation to get to Wizards games that I've heard. I have friends who live in that area that are like, two of them are very excited because this is way closer for them. Like, I won't have to go into downtown where they're talking about. And then I have two friends who are like, this is terrible and I want no part of it. So it's it it's tough. And I think anytime you talk about moving a team out of a downtown area, I think it gets a little ugly.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. All right. One more thing that I wanted to run by you, and we do have some other things that we're going to get into. Some things that are on our list that we'll save for tomorrow. In fact, we
Yeah,
did just get some injury details coming out. Sounds like Terry Rozier avoided any kind of serious injury on his
which is good
shoulder.
because
So
that looked nasty yesterday.
yes.
Yeah, I thought I was like, well, he's done for the year. Like, it just, yeah.
So we've got some stuff like that, some injury updates and things to get into, some 10-day contracts and whatnot, some Bismack Biyombo signings and things of that nature. But we'll save that for tomorrow's show. Before we get out of here, though, a little unscheduled nonsense. Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
We got to see part of. I thought it was interesting that all the movies now during the Super Bowl, their commercial just says go online and see our trailer.
It's got to
But
be too expensive, right?
it's
They
too
got to be
expensive.
like,
That's
let's
that's
just,
what it is,
yeah.
right?
And
It's
we
too
know you'll
expensive.
just, yeah, we'll tweet it 5 seconds later and you can just watch it there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I definitely did. We watched the trailer. I need
Right.
to go back through it with a fine tooth comb. I know like new rock stars and stuff do that
Yeah.
where they're gonna tell me everything that I missed. But I'm excited for this one. And I'll tell you what, Keith, what I really like is that my wife went when I like the Deadpool movies. I want to go see that. I'm like,
Oh, there you go.
awesome. Okay. All right. I'm like, I get it. I get it. It's a Ryan Reynolds thing, right? That's what's going on here. She goes, no, I just think it's really funny. She goes, and I like Ryan Reynolds, but I'm like, okay, well, this is cool then. So we're gonna get to go see that in the theater, and I'm really excited for this one to see Deadpool and Wolverine. This is gonna be, I think this is gonna be the biggest Marvel movie in a while. They've had a few that have just not lived up to expectations. This
Yeah.
one is gonna have people really excited.
I think you have the combination of people really like those movies. They are very adult, so people like those. They're funny, and this is for like the nerd folk like us. This is how we're merging the X-Men universe into
Yes.
the MCU because this movie exists in the MCU, so we're gonna see it kind of all come in together into play. So yeah, I can't wait to see. Clearly, it's involves the TVA, which
Yep.
we've seen. Deadpool, spoiler alert, but Deadpool 2 involved some time travel
Yep.
elements. So I'm guessing that's how that is tied together. With that. So I think that's going to be a fun part of it. I'm curious, is Loki gonna show up, or or
Mm,
any the people from the Loki series gonna pop in there because they're
yep.
all obviously with the TVA. So what the string of the multiverse does this exist in? That's a whole other part of this, right? Where that's gonna be something. And the reality is we got the Marvels, which people hated on the Marvels. I really liked it. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was well done. I really enjoyed it. The family enjoyed the Marvels too. But I think people are ready for like give me that big Marvel movie again.
Yeah.
And it feels like this one might
This is
kind of
gonna
be
be it.
that. I feel like people are like, I'm ready to, come back. And it's the only one this year. They
Yeah.
do not have another movie coming out this year. So there'll be some TV stuff, it sounds like, towards the back end of the year. But this is it. Like this is they're kind of putting a lot on. This one's got to kind of get us there. So I'm very, very curious to see what it comes up. But I'm really excited. That'll be a day one. Like I'll be
Oh
there
yeah.
day watch
What's the?
without it.
Do we know the release date? The exact date? I know it's just
Yeah,
July.
May something. Hold on, I'll tell you. I want to say May 24.
Oh, I thought it
No,
was July.
it is July. You're right. July 26th. So
Oh,
yep. summer
I
vacation.
think that is the day I get back from vacation.
Nice. There you go.
That's
Perfect.
gonna be a busy time. All
Oh,
right.
we should say summer
Oh
league
yeah.
dates came out July 12th through July 22nd.
Move
Week
back.
later than usual. It's a week later
Yep.
because of Olympic stuff. There's a million things going on with the Olympics. So, Olympic qualifiers ahead of that and everything. So it got pushed back a week. So obviously we'll let you all know what our plans are for summer league and if when we'll be there, just because that all gets pushed back a little bit. Also, kind of nice though. Most of free agency should be done. Unless of course LeBron opts out and then none of free agency will be done because he'll decide sometime around like August 13th, and then everybody else will do what they're gonna do
Mhm.
because that's what LeBron does. But yeah, it's so summer league dates came out 12th through the 22nd for anybody wondering
Yep.
out there. Anybody wants to get a jump on making plans or anything like that. But yeah, there's a chance I might be on a cruise during Deadpool, so hopefully it'll be a
Ooh,
ship where I can see it.
that'd be
That would
nice.
be nice. So, because I enjoy going to the movies. I enjoy going to movies on cruises. So that'd work well for me. So yeah, man, I'm fired up. I think that I've been avoiding because it trends on Twitter like
Yeah.
every other day, and
Mhm.
I've been avoiding clicking on it because I don't want to see any more stuff about it beyond what
These
they
spoilers.
intend for us to show. Yeah, I'm like, all right, I know Wolverine's in it. They haven't hidden that from the beginning, and it does sound like maybe I don't know if it was an official name change to Deadpool and Wolverine from Deadpool 3, or if that's just
Mhm.
like a
I don't know.
funny joke. But yeah, I'm psyched, man. I can't wait.
Either way, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait for it. Again, I'm more excited for this than any of the Marvel movies that we've seen in the last couple of years. So this is a big one, and let's go. Let's go. I'm excited.
Yep.
All right. I think that about does it for today. Once again, make sure you subscribe to the Front Office Show channel here on YouTube. Check out the Basketball Bulletin over on Substack. I'll drop that link in the description below. We'll finish up our news breakdown for tomorrow, some of the injuries, some of the different 10-day signings and things of that nature, as well as whatever else crazy stuff happens in the NBA world between now and then. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.